To let you know, my name is Greg Heinritz, and I am not new to CMA. I had been on the staff of the Christian Motorcyclist Association for 20 years, from 1979 through 1999. And during that period of time, I had served as regional evangelist for the North Central region, the West Coast region, and the South Central region, and I had spent most of my time traveling across the United States, conducting worship services at secular motorcycling events to broadly canvass the gospel across the globe, or across this nation particularly, but also into Canada. And during my last 5 years serving with CMA, the purpose was to multiply what I had learned in teaching other CMAers of evangelism. And so evangelism is something that I am fully aware of. And so when I was asked to do this, I felt like that even though I'm not currently on staff, I could share some old tricks of the trade, so to speak, that might be able to help some of you newcomers. And I've got a whole briefcase here full of notes and illustrations and things that I could have picked out, but the way Gary had entitled this, Evangelism 101, it seemed like Gary was wanting to go right back to the beginning, to the very root, to the core, and not just something that is slick and polished. But this day and age, there is so much material back there with the tracks, with the ministry team training tapes that are so excellent and to the point in guiding you. The tools of, you've got the shirts and the back patches, but more than that, you've got the legacy of 30 years, people going before you and presenting the gospel and kind of like paving the way. And so what I felt like that maybe you would enjoy hearing about is maybe how I learned some things, and maybe how it was before there was ministry team training. Back before, long ago, when God did things through signs and wonders. And even though I don't go back that far, God still did some amazing things, and a lot of the things that we learned back then were through our mistakes. And I would like to just share some very basics with the hopes that you would be able to identify with me, not necessarily the current CMA evangelist, or even though I was on staff for 20 years, it doesn't make any difference. I want you to realize how you can impact your world, even though this might be your first day entering into the ministry of CMA, possibly even being a Christian, making that decision. What do you do from this point on? And to let you know what I did, the motorcycle that I drove, that was all I had in the world at that time, was myself and my motorcycle, and I give my life to Jesus. And I felt like, as a brand new believer, the only other thing I had to worry about was my motorcycle. And I decided at that early point in my life that, well, it seemed like God wanted all of me, and He wanted all that I have to use for His glory. And I made a decision when I went to CMA rally, National Rally in 1979, my first one. Some of you, probably this is your first CMA rally, I don't know. But here we are, many, many years from 1979. But back then, there was about 300 or 400 people there. Herb Shreve was preaching, and the theme for the weekend was on commitment. And I realized that I thought I was committed. I'd given my life to the Lord. I was going to church, I was reading my Bible, I was praying, I was tithing, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't cussing, wasn't smoking, doing all the things a Christian ought to be doing, but I didn't give God my motorcycle. And it seemed like that the first thing I needed to do was give God my motorcycle. And it was a difficult thing. At that time, I had a motorcycle painted up very artistically, winning trophies and awards across the country. But at that time, just a short time prior, when I was not a Christian, it was painted up pornographically. And at this CMA rally, I had parked way off in the woods underneath the trees, hoping no one would see it. But God still captured my heart's attention, realized, man, that thing had to go. And so what I did is I took my bike, spray painted over all that pornography. It was a huge thing for me to do because I was all into winning trophies and awards. And it was a big thing. I realized I wasn't going to win them anymore. And so I then decided I was going to repaint that motorcycle to glorify and lift up Jesus Christ. I had a Moto Guzzi at the time, and I had set it up very differently, but it had murals of Jesus painted all over it and scenes of the Bible, and I purposely put action scenes on there that would require people to make inquiry as to what the pictures meant. And even though I was an introvert, I didn't like talking to people, and I failed only one class in high school, and that was speech class. I knew that I needed to be a witness for Jesus. And I figured if I could just keep my mouth shut, I could have it painted on the bike, and that's all I'd ever have to do. Little did I know what God would have in store in my life. Because that was the beginning of my involvement in evangelism. And it seemed like everywhere I went, people would come around and want to talk to me about my motorcycle and why it had this picture on there. And why are you doing this? And I'd go to motorcycle rally after rally, and bikers would congregate around my bike and talk, and I'd spend the entire weekends out there talking to bikers about the Lord. And I never initiated a conversation. They always came to me. They asked about my bike. Well, I could talk about my bike, and then they'd point out the pictures, and they'd ask me about them. And so it was kind of like a natural progression in my life. I took a step of faith to be a witness for Him. I thought, well, I did my duty. Evangelism. Shouldn't have to open my mouth, I figured. But I would go rally after rally, the same thing occurring. And to the point that I had purposed to go to a motorcycle rally every weekend throughout the year, as much as I could, as a full-time volunteer. Because I saw CMA now as a ministry that was fitting my hand like a glove. I couldn't believe it. It just fit. Every aspect of it, it was me. It was where God wanted me to be. And I know you feel that way too. You wouldn't be here. And you're seeing that the more you learn about CMA. And every CMA member, that happens to, it seems like. And God will use you for a period of time until He's got a promotion in mind. But let me share with you a particular experience that happened to me. And as we analyze it near the end, I trust there'll be some principles that we would have learned. As I began traveling across the country representing Jesus, not like it is here in 2004, but I'm talking like back in 1979, back in the 1980, 81. We're talking far back. We're not talking about Gold Wings that were out there. We're talking about 750 Hondas that were the key touring bike, before the Gold Wings started to really catch on. And anyway, back then it was Herb Shreve who was crisscrossing the United States with another fellow by the name of Tom Pittman. And I would travel with each one of those fellows. And the only thing I knew to do, And I felt it was my job and duty to do was during the time of the service, prior to the service, I would go there and pick up beer cans and at least clean up the service area. And that's what I thought my job was. And so this is what I did. And I was with Tom Pittman particularly at this BMW National Rally in Tennessee. And while there, they have prestigious awards that they were giving away. And back then, during that era, one of the most highly prestigious awards, trophies that were given out, was given out by a motorcycle magazine called Road Rider. It was what we know today as Motorcycle Consumer News. But before it was that, it used to be Road Rider magazine, a highly established and coveted type reading for the touring rider. And they had a particular award that they had at their national rallies, and it was called the Road Rider Award. And how you got this award was by having accumulated the most miles going to that rally without going to your home. And those were the only ones, the one who had the most mileage, they won. Well, here I was volunteering my time, serving the Lord, going to rallies and presenting the gospel. Tom Pittman this weekend, Herb Shree that next weekend. I might be Tennessee over here and Arizona that next weekend. I'd go up to Montana the following weekend, maybe to Virginia the next weekend, and I'd go around the whole country like that. I was single, and I spent all my money and effort in serving the Lord and doing what I said I was doing. Well, at this BMW rally, I felt like, because trophies was a big thing to me as a lost man, and I messed it up by putting all the Jesus stuff on there. I wasn't winning any trophies like I used to. I thought, well, this seemed legitimate. I could just sign up for this Road Rider Mileage Award. Mileage, though, is a big thing to BMW riders. Big thing. And I didn't realize how competitive people were trying to get that award. I had signed in with like 26,000 some odd hundred miles to get to that rally. And unbeknownst to me, there were several others who had obviously signed up for that. And when they gave out the awards, I was the winner. But what I didn't know is that the second place person was a young lady who had spent her life savings to get that award and basically had 18 less miles than I did. And I didn't know all this, but I was there with Tom Pittman to present the worship service and help out in presenting and lifting up Jesus, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, here comes a mob of people, about 100 people. And this young lady, and they sat me down. They wanted to have a talk with me, and they explained the whole situation. And oh, did I feel terrible. I come there to minister, and here, now all of a sudden it was backfiring. They couldn't believe that Christians were doing this, coming in and taking their awards. And they just, I just felt so small. And I got up there and I apologized the best I could, and I got the trophy and I gave it to her. And oh, they still mouthed off. They still couldn't believe that a Christian would do that. Even after I had apologized and done all that and decided, never again am I going to get involved in trophies. I don't want no part of a trophy for the rest of my life. And oh man, I felt bad. And see, up until that time, the course of the year, every weekend I was at a motorcycle rally. It happened at the end of this rally, I didn't have no place to go the following weekend. It was a off weekend. And I decided, here I am in Tennessee where this BMW rally was. I thought, and see, in 2 weeks from there, I was going to be at a rally in Virginia. And so I figured I would use the next week or so and just go on a vacation just for myself. And I thought, I'm just going to go up into the Northeast, because the Northeast is not some place you happen through. You got to go there. And I thought, I'm going to tour up there in Maine and mess around up there. So I headed my motorcycle up toward that way, and man, I was praying and reading my Bible. I felt so bad about that experience. I mean, the one who condemns me the most, it's me.